Welcome to The Final Hour. This is a story that has echoes of the Twilight Zone. For years, it almost seemed as if it could just be a legend, a conspiratorial whisper amongst the collectors of weird news stories. But then in 2018, some bombshells were dropped, and suddenly we have a mystery that is part crime, part supernatural, and part something else entirely. Something that can only be described as dim. We don't know how much of this is true, but what we do know is that this is one of the strangest stories we've ever come across. It comes from somewhere called the Camden Reserve Facility located in downtown Los Angeles. This building is super modern, with tough steel walls and 8 layers of protection for everything inside. Pretty cool, right? The facility is not publicly listed and operates as a discreet location for storing things like high-end artwork, wine, bonds, cash, even jewels. Most of the clients who use this type of storage are obscenely wealthy individuals or large organizations who need a place to put their money where no one knows about it. Because of the confidentiality, very little is known about what happened here until the events of February 8, 2010. On that day, the Camden Reserve Facility would become notorious. To hear what happened, we'll have to start off with the seemingly mundane. We meet a man named Alan Rothman. Alan is the security director of the facility. If anyone knew how this place worked, it was him. In fact, he was one of only 2 people allowed to walk freely throughout the interior without being accompanied by someone else. Like everyone else, Rahman had undergone extensive background checks, and because of his past as a military engineer, he was trusted with keeping this place running smoothly. So when he entered the vault on the night of the 8th at 9:46 p.m., no one paid much attention. He entered alone and locked himself in. The vault's 5-layer security system kicked in, locking itself from the inside with state-of-the-art technology that included motion detectors and fingerprint access. Nobody could get in unless Rahman himself let them. He had keys that would disable the traps and allow entrance. Again, as far as anyone knew, he was working alone. Then at 11:05 p.m., the alarm system tripped. It was briefly disabled manually, then re-enabled. It was unusual, but not unheard of for Rahman to do these types of things, so nobody thought much of it. Then in the morning, backup staff showed up for their shift change. They couldn't get in touch with Rahman, which was again odd but not impossible. So they did something they were trained for. They went through the emergency protocol, trying to get in touch with Rahman. Eventually, they tried overriding the locks. When they finally got inside, they found Rahman unconscious on the ground, bleeding from the back of his head. There was no sign of forced entry, and besides Raymond's prints, no fingerprints anywhere. The cameras were intact, showing nothing. And perhaps most confusingly of all, the vault was still locked from the inside. It took some time to realize what had happened, but eventually they managed to gain access and saw the reason for the strange occurrence. The vault was completely empty. Dozens of boxes, all of which were supposed to contain valuable items, artwork, gold, bonds, rare coins, diamonds, as much as $40 million worth of items were missing. This was no longer just a mystery. It was a heist of epic proportions. What kind of person could steal something like that and get away? To find out, police combed through every piece of evidence they could find. They questioned everyone who worked there and everyone who had connections to the company. But the more they looked, the more this bizarre situation started to take shape. The first clue came from Raymond's smashed watch, frozen at 2:38 a.m. There was blood on the strap, and when they tested it, it didn't match Raymond's. In fact, it matched the DNA of another employee, Victor Reyes. Reyes had been missing for 2 days, and no one knew where he was. And as soon as they realized the blood wasn't Raymond's, they sent out an APB. But before they did, they checked the security footage. And there was Reyes entering the vault at 2:36 a.m. right behind Rahman. That would make sense of the locked door. Reyes had somehow deactivated the security system, got inside, and done something horrible to Rahman. But then why didn't he escape? Why did he stay inside? It was at this point the investigators realized this was something beyond their wildest imaginations. Just how big of a role did Rahman play in all of this? As they delved deeper into the investigation, they started to uncover the truth. Through internal documents, They learned that Rahman and Reyes had been sneaking into the vault at night, opening boxes and replacing them with other boxes. They were essentially siphoning the valuables out of the facility and moving them to other areas. In order to pull this off, they must have worked together for months, maybe years. But something happened on that fateful night. Maybe Reyes made a move on Rahman. Maybe Rahman turned the tables, or maybe they just both died. But as they continued looking for answers, they found out that Reyes' body was found 10 days later in an abandoned warehouse miles away. He had been shot twice in the chest. The case of the Cam and Vault heist may never be fully solved. We don't know what truly happened to those millions of dollars. We don't know why Reyes was killed, and we don't know who killed him. But what we do know is that when police combed through the evidence, they found something peculiar, almost as if the main culprit was a ghost. There were no signs of forced entry to the building. There were no witnesses except for the few people who found Raymond's body. And when they did, the vault was still locked from the inside. It seems as though whoever did this wanted to be thorough. All evidence pointed to the fact that Rahman opened the vault for Reyes. But then why would he lock it again? Did he try to trap Reyes inside? If so, why did he kill Reyes in the first place? And if he didn't kill Reyes, how did he end up dead inside the vault? And what about Reyes' killer? Was there a third person involved? Was this a conspiracy that went deeper than anyone could have imagined? Some believe Reyes had a third partner who helped him pull off the heist, a shadow in the background pulling strings and making sure everyone ended up dead. Maybe someone who wanted to take the fall for Reyes in the end, walking away clean. Others believe Rahman got greedy and tried to kill Reyes once he figured out what he was doing. Or maybe Reyes planned to kill Rahman and simply got there before him. Whatever happened, 2 men are dead and millions of dollars are missing. And it seems unlikely we'll ever know the full story. What we do know is that it is one of the biggest mysteries in modern history, and that it is probably smarter not to keep your money in a building called the Cam and Reserve Facility. We hope you enjoyed this episode of The Final Hour. Please remember to subscribe and leave us a review.